Hi, welcome everyone who's here so far. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Just hang tight. In the meantime, just know that you are muted. If you want to ask a question or when we ask questions, please find our little chat box. So that should be, I believe, at the top of your screen. It'll be where like the mute button and the camera button are, and there should be a little orange dot on it if you haven't found it yet. So that's where you can ask questions. And then again, we'll be asking questions of you. So please answer there. Like I said, we're going to give everyone just another minute or so to get in, and then we'll get going soon. Hi, everyone that's just joining us. We'll be getting started shortly. Okay, it looks like we're at around 12:02, so for the sake of time, we should probably go ahead and get started. Okay. So thank you all, and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for today's UVM Health Network HealthSource presentation on child passenger safety for booster-aged and older children. I'm Christine Buck, and I'm the coordinator of the HealthSource Classes program at the University of Vermont Medical Center. HealthSource is a free educational program that offers classes on a wide variety of health and well-being topics, which are facilitated by our UVM Health Network experts and our community partners. We're pleased to now be able to offer these classes online, as they're now accessible to the entire UVM Health Network region and even beyond. Since I'm helping to run today's session, I just wanted to review a few important housekeeping items. So the session is being recorded, but it's for our training purposes only. All attendees are muted. We are asking everybody to have their web cameras off, and it looks like everybody has done that, so we thank you. This just helps to maintain your privacy, and it gives us a more optimal experience. Also, if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to do that during any time during the presentation. Please look for an icon that looks like a circle with an orange dot. We will have some questions for you, so please answer them there. I just wanted to quickly introduce you to Jerry Ann, who is going to be our chat moderator. She's from our communications department.
Hello, everybody. Don't be shy. I'll be monitoring the chat, so ask away.
Thank you, Jerry Ann. And after the class, we are going to be sending out a survey. Your feedback is so important to us. It really helps through this virtual world to really help us to strengthen and improve our programming. So please take a look for that. And if you have the time, we really, really would appreciate it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Maureen Johnson, who is our presenter today. Maureen is a child passenger safety specialist with our trauma services department at UVM Medical Center. So thank you, Maureen, for being here, and you can take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me and see my screen? I'm hoping that's a yes.
Yep, looking good.
And thanks, Christine. Thanks, Jerry Ann. So as Christine says, I'm Maureen Johnson. I'm the child passenger safety specialist at the University of Vermont Medical Center. I'm a child passenger safety technician and instructor, and I'm also the occupant protection coordinator for Safe Kids Vermont. And today's class, we're going to cover the selection and use of a belt positioning booster seat. And from now on, I'm going to just call those booster seats or seat belts. And we're also going to talk about when it's safe for a child to move out of a booster seat and to begin to use the adult seat belt without a booster. A few caveats. This is general information, so it's always important for you to read the manual for your particular car seat or booster seat and your particular vehicle or vehicles when you're using a car seat or a booster seat. And this is not a class that certifies you to help others with car seats like a car seat technician would. I also want to mention that NHTSA is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and I'm going to use that abbreviation a couple of times during the presentation. We've got some pictures during the presentation that are also from NHTSA or from other sources, as you'll see on the screen. These are not endorsements, they're just educational examples only. So to start off with, I'd like to kind of get an idea about who our audience is. So in the chat box, if you could just indicate what your experience level is currently with booster seats. So maybe you don't have much experience yet, option A. B, you've used boosters before, but it's been a while. C, you have a lot of experience, but you're looking for the latest and greatest information, or maybe there's another circumstance, D. And Jerry Ann will be giving us the results of this poll question.
We've got a lot of A's and one B so far.
Okie doke. Okay, so as Christine said, anytime during the presentation, if a question occurs to you, something isn't clear, please feel free to use the chat box, and then I'll take some pauses during the presentation to answer those questions, and then we'll have plenty of time also for questions and answers at the end. So let's start by talking about booster seats. So why do booster seats work? So again, I said I'm just going to call them booster seats, but kind of the operative phrase in here is belt positioning. So a belt positioning booster seat allows for a child to be wearing the seat belt in such a way that it's in contact with the strongest parts of the body. So it prevents injuries to internal organs or the lower spine by having the seat belt be across the child's shoulder, the middle of the chest, and down around the hips or thighs. One of the challenges that we see when children are not using a booster seat or wearing the seat belt properly is that the seat belt rubs up against their neck. And this could cause injury, or more likely it's not comfortable for the child, so they're going to be more tempted to move the seat belt, put it behind their head or under their arm, where it isn't going to be able to do its best job. Research shows that booster seat use reduces the risk for serious injury by about 45% for children between the ages of 4 and 8 when compared with just using the seat belt by itself. So, true or false? Once a child is 4 years old, the best practice is to move them from a harnessed car seat to a booster. And again, type your answers in the chat box, and Jerry Ann will give us a summary.
Yes, everyone's leaning toward false on this one.
Well, keep leaning, because that's exactly right. Here are some various types of booster seats, and we'll go over some of these, but the best practice is to wait until a child has outgrown the harnessed car seat by either weight or by height, and they are between 5 and 6 years old. So depending on your experience level with other kinds of car seats, you might already have a combination car seat or an all-in-one car seat. These are car seats that have a harness but can be turned into a booster seat. Or maybe you're transporting a child who normally rides in a different booster seat, and you're purchasing for them or using with them a high back or a backless booster seat, like what's shown here on the left-hand side. And maybe you have a vehicle, although there are not many of them these days, that has a booster seat that's integrated or built in to the vehicle seat. But the key to the 5 or 6 years old versus the false statement of 4 years old is that by the time a child is 5 to 6, they have the right physical development, but also the right level of maturity to be wearing the seatbelt properly all of the time. So no slouching, no leaning for a toy, no reaching over to bother one's little brother. That would have been me. You need to be wearing the seatbelt the proper way all the time, we adults as well, in order to have it be able to protect us best if it needs to. So there's a couple of types of boosters that we're going to focus in a little bit more on. First is the high back booster seat. The high back booster is helpful for new booster riders because it may remind them to sit properly. It kind of looks like the car seat that they have been riding in for 5 or 6 years. It doesn't have the harness. It just has the seat belt that they're wearing, but it's got sides, it's got head protection, and therefore it's kind of that reminder to be able to sit properly and lean their head a little bit if they need to. One of the things that we tell people to help kiddos when they're riding in a booster from slouching or slumping if they are starting to fall asleep is to look at something on the ceiling of the vehicle. You might put a sticker up there or something like that to help them. Another important use of a high back booster seat would be in a vehicle that has a low seat back or no headrest, because then the back of the booster seat is providing some head and neck protection. A backless or no back booster seat is a great choice when a child may need to use a booster seat in multiple vehicles. It's convenient, it's portable, it's fairly inexpensive, and some are actually quite low to the vehicle seat. So they're a little less conspicuous or obvious and may be helpful for a child whose peers are not using boosters and help them feel a little less self-conscious in front of peers. In the case of a backless or no back booster seat, you need to make sure that the vehicle seat back or headrest is providing head, neck, and back support. And a lot of these booster seats have a shoulder belt positioner that again helps keep the shoulder belt off the child where it might become uncomfortable and cause them to want to put the seat belt behind their head or underneath their arm. So a couple of other considerations about booster seats, but another true-false question to start with. Booster seats have an expiration date, just like harnessed car seats do. Is that a true or a false statement?
We've got trues leading the pack here.
Okey-doke.
Just like milk, I guess.
Well, it is a true statement that booster seats have an expiry date, just like harnessed car seats do. Boosters are also subject to potential recalls. They also should be registered so that the consumer can get information from the car seat manufacturer or booster manufacturer. And by the way, if you do register a car seat or a booster seat, the manufacturer is not allowed to contact you for other purposes besides recalls or safety notices. So you don't have to worry about becoming best friends forever with a car seat manufacturer and getting advertisements long after your child doesn't need a car seat anymore. Also, the same as with harnessed car seats. One needs to be wary of using a secondhand seat. You want to make sure that you know the history of the booster seat, that it's never been involved in any crash, and that it's been properly cleaned. I'll pause here now, Jerry Ann, in case there are any other questions that have come up in the chat box.
No, we don't have any quite yet. So keep moving forth.
Moving along. So then the next question is, where do you put a booster seat? Well, as with car seats and as with any child under the age of 13, the back seat is safest. With a booster seat, you have to make sure that you're using a vehicle seat that has a lap and shoulder belt, not just a lap belt. These days, most vehicles have lap and shoulder belts in all seating positions, but if someone is riding in an older vehicle, oftentimes the center seating position had just a lap belt, and you want to make sure that the booster seat is used with a lap and shoulder belt together. And by the way, that's why booster seats aren't supposed to be used on airplanes, because airplanes only have a lap belt. In terms of the particular seating position within the back seat, the center is the safest, but we have some other considerations as well. You need to think about who's being dropped off at school, in what order kiddos are being dropped off. Maybe you have multiple riders, including another child in a car seat. Where does the car seat fit in relationship to the booster seat? And trying different positions is appropriate. The bottom line is to get everybody riding safely in the vehicle. Now, a word about latch, and lower anchors and tethers for children is the full name of latch, and using latch with a booster seat. So if you're familiar with other types of car seats, you probably know that the latch system has a weight limit. So the lower anchors should not be used after your child weighs a certain amount. Since boosters are for bigger children, why am I even bringing this up? Well, with a booster seat or a car seat, like a combination or all-in-one car seat in the booster mode, the seat belt is what's bearing the weight of the child. So provided that the manufacturer allows latch or lower anchors to be used in booster mode, you can use the latch system to prevent the car seat or booster seat from moving around when the child isn't riding in it. If you don't have a seat with latch, or it's not permitted by the manufacturer to use in booster mode, then you would need to make sure that the booster seat is buckled in when a child is not riding in it, so that it doesn't become a projectile in the event of a crash. But again, it's really important to always read the manual and make sure that you're following the manufacturer's instructions for the car seat and for your vehicle. What about recline, overhang, and vehicle headrests? Again, reading the manual is going to be important because there's no real rules of thumb. Some combination or multi-mode seats can be reclined in booster mode, but some can't. Some require a particular recline setting. Most boosters don't allow any overhang, but there might be exceptions. With high back boosters, we said earlier that they should be used when the vehicle seat back is not providing head and neck and back support, but some high back boosters still require vehicle head support. Some allow to remove the vehicle headrest if it's pushing the booster seat forward, but maybe the vehicle doesn't allow for that. So again, there really isn't any specific rules of thumb. It's really important to read the manuals for both your booster seat and your vehicle. So now it's time to talk about securing the child in the booster seat. We want to make sure that the top of the child's ears are below the top of the vehicle seat, or in the case of a high back booster, the booster seat. We want to see the shoulder belt lying snugly across the shoulder and crossing between the neck and the arm. The lap belt should lay across the upper thighs, not on the belly. We want to avoid the lap belt to be in contact with soft tissue because that's where abdominal injuries can occur. You want to read the manual for how to route the seatbelt around the armrest. Most booster seats do want both the lap and shoulder belt underneath the armrest, but that's not universal, so read the manual for your particular booster seat. And of course, you want to verify that the belt is buckled. By 5 or 6 years old, children are becoming more independent and may want to be buckling themselves in, but it's important for adults to just check and make sure that the buckle has clicked in. And the child needs to remain seated like this for the whole trip. So again, no slouching, no leaning, no trying to bother a sibling or reach for a toy. So now we're going to talk about moving from a booster seat to a seat belt. And I'll pause again here, Jerry Ann, and see if there are any questions.
No, I think it's good, although I'd love to know how you can get siblings not to torment each other. Well, but that's a whole nother class, I think.
Speaking for myself, my brother is bigger than I am now, so I have to be nice to him.
Ah, very good.
So another true-false question. Once a child is 8 years old, they no longer need a booster seat.
Maureen, it's Christine. Oh, sorry. Can I just jump in? We've had a few, I think there were a few issues just with some of the links, and we have some people that are just joining us. So okay. I just wanted to let the people who are just joining us know that you are muted, but any of these questions can be answered through our chat box. So if you look for a circle that might have an orange dot on it, that's how you can answer some of these poll questions and ask questions of your own. So thank you.
And also for those folks, we are recording this, so you can receive a copy of the recording later and review what you missed.
So Maureen, we've got the answer to this question. It's leading false is the leading answer. And then we had one that said false, depending on size and weight with a question mark.
Yeah, that's actually the best answer. When a child is 8 years old, by law in Vermont and New York, they are not mandated to ride in an approved child restraint anymore. But having said that, most children, based off of their size and weight, are going to need a booster seat well beyond the age of 8 in order to ride safely. So when you're considering whether a child is ready to not ride with a booster seat and just ride wearing the adult seat belt and sitting on the vehicle seat, there's a 5-step test that has to be passed. In other words, you have to be able to answer yes to these 5 steps. Is the child sitting all the way back against the vehicle seat? Are their knees bent comfortably at the edge of the vehicle seat with their feet flat on the floor? Is the lap belt across the thighs, not riding up on the belly? Shoulder belt laying snugly across the shoulder between their arm and their neck? And can they stay seated like this for the whole trip? And so the stay seated like this for the whole trip, if the child's knees are not bent comfortably, if the shoulder belt isn't in the right spot, if the lap belt is uncomfortable, then they're more likely to slouch and then cause that belt to be out of position. So generally, kids will not 5-step, quote, until they're older than 8 years old. And a child might 5-step in some vehicles, but not in others. or even in the same vehicle, they may 5-step in the third row, but not the second row of a van, for example. So it's important to take the 5-step test in any vehicle and in any seating position where the child might be riding. And really important, when you buckle up, they will too. It's important to put on your own seatbelt and make sure everybody else who rides with you is seatbelted in as well. We know that seatbelts save thousands of lives every year, and especially by the time you have a booster-aged child, you're already teaching your future driver about good safety habits. So when you buckle up, they will too.
Maureen, we do have a question actually from an adult who is 5'2". I'm 5 feet, so I get this question. I understand this question. Her lap belt never goes across her thighs, but her stomach, and the shoulder belt is always across her neck. Does she need a booster seat?
So, ideally, obviously, we want anybody who's wearing the seatbelt to have the seatbelt fitting properly and comfortably. But one of the reasons that young children need booster seats is because they also have younger bones. When we become an adult, our bones become adult bones as well. So, these days there are vehicles where the shoulder belt can be adjusted in height. I also find that for myself, if I scooch, pardon the technical term, toward the side of the seatbelt where it's buckled, I can get a better fit. And also, depending on how somebody's built, it's not just a matter of throwing the seatbelt on. You really do have to kind of position yourself and the belt every time you get in the car. So, the problem with smaller statured adults is we don't recommend things underneath people. We don't recommend that you use something like a clothespin to make the seatbelt more comfortable. It sometimes is just a matter of that trial and error and being conscious of it every time you get in the car.
Maureen, we did have just another question about adjusting the strap so it doesn't go across your neck. There are some things you can get, right, that can go along the strap and then hold it out so it doesn't go right across the neck. Is that correct?
Well, unfortunately, there are products that you can buy that really are not recommended. A lot of car seat products that are what we call aftermarket wouldn't be something we would recommend, and the same would hold true for anything that would be added to the seat belt. The behavior of a seat belt versus a car seat harness is a little bit different, but if you've ever heard that children shouldn't be dressed in puffy coats or fluffy jackets to ride in the car seat, the same actually applies to us adults. The seatbelt operates a little bit differently, but we don't want anything that would delay the seatbelt from locking and doing its job in the event of a crash. So anything that would be added to the seatbelt, like in the way of a sheepskin or a cushion or something like that, would add volume and therefore may affect the performance of the seatbelt when you absolutely need it the most in a crash.
Okay, thank you for the information.
So resources for child passenger safety, we have the UVM Medical Center CPS program. We're operational 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. With that phone number, you might have heard the phone ringing in the background during this presentation because it looks like someone has called for help with a car seat. We have our website, and we also have an email address, injuryprevention@uvmhealth.org. The Vermont Department of Health maintains a great child passenger safety website at bseatsmart.org. That also lists the places that you can go in addition to the UVM Medical Center to have a car seat check, or to talk to a technician about your car seat or booster seat needs. And the governor's Traffic Safety Committee in New York has a similar website listing events and car seat stations. Many of us have been closed or operating less because of the COVID-19, but you should be able to find some help, maybe not as convenient and close to home, but fingers crossed as more and more people are vaccinated and as restrictions ease, we'll have more stations that are reopening to the public. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to sit in on this class, and I'll open it up for questions now.
We don't have any questions quite yet, but perhaps people may be typing. We've got some thank yous.
Oh, excellent. Well, as I said, anybody is welcome to contact us, set up an appointment to have their car seat checked or their booster seat reviewed, ask questions, review our materials.
We do have one question here. It's, is it best to keep a child in a 5-point harness up until they max out weight and height limits?
So it's best to keep a child in a 5-point harness until they max out one of the limits of their car seat. So in other words, if you have a child who weighs over 60 or at or over 65 pounds, even if they haven't reached the height limit of the car seat, they have outgrown that seat, and then the booster seat would be the next step.
Okay, thank you.
And these days, most car seats do have a weight limit of 65 pounds, which would generally get children to the age where it would be safe for them to use a booster seat in terms of their physical development and their level of maturity.
Okay, thank you. I think we're good. We have a lot of people thanking you for the presentation, Maureen.
Excellent. Well, and again, if someone comes up with a question right after they disconnect, they're welcome to call me right away or anytime thereafter.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Looks like there might be one other question coming in. I'm not sure. Let's just give everyone another second here, see if something comes in. And in the meantime, just a reminder, after the class, I'll be sending you the slides, also the survey. And again, I'm sorry for those who had some difficulty getting in. I'm not sure what was going on with that link, so we'll definitely look into that. But I'm glad that you were able to join us for part of it. We did record the class. Because of the platform, we won't be sharing it widely with the general public, but I will send it out to this group just so for you to have it if you missed the beginning. And yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I think we can wrap things up. Thank you again, Maureen, for all of that great information, and thank you all for being here today and for your interest in our program. When I do email you, if you do have a question, feel free to email me and I can relay it to Maureen, or you can just call or email Maureen directly. And again, on behalf of UVM Health Network, we thank you for being here today, and we hope you have a great day. We hope to see you at another class. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.